The morning fog clung to Basefield like a thin veil, muting the sharp edges of hangars and watchtowers. Rebecca Carter moved with deliberate quiet, her weathered work boots making no sound against the concrete walkway. At 32, she had perfected the art of being simultaneously present and invisible, a skill born of necessity in a world that preferred to look right through her. The AH-64 Apache maintenance facility buzzed with its usual pre-dawn energy. Technicians checked instrumentation, pilots reviewed mission logs, and the constant hum of machinery created a backdrop of controlled chaos. Rebecca was just another contractor, or so they believed. Her navy blue work shirt bore no insignia, no hint of her extraordinary background. Major David Reynolds caught her eye from across the flight deck. His gaze was cold, calculating, the look of a man who saw her as nothing more than a problem to be managed. She'd been working at Basefield for 6 months, her expertise in helicopter systems evident to anyone who watched her work. Yet something about her triggered a defensiveness in the senior staff, a tension that simmered just beneath the surface. "Carter!" Reynolds called out, his voice cutting through the morning noise. "Report to administrative office, now." Rebecca's heart rate barely changed. She'd learned long ago that showing emotion was a weakness in environments like this. She gathered her tablet and maintenance clipboard, walking with measured steps that betrayed nothing of the uncertainty churning inside her. The administrative office was a study in military precision. Stark white walls, meticulously organized, files, photographs of decorated officers watching from dark wooden frames. Major Reynolds sat behind a massive oak desk, his fingers steepled in a gesture that screamed controlled anger. "Your contract status is under review," he began, not bothering with pleasantries. "We've received concerns about your qualifications." Rebecca knew the game, whispers, rumors, the quiet sabotage that happened when someone didn't fit the expected mold. She'd seen it before. "I'm happy to provide any additional documentation about my training," she responded, her voice calm and professional. Reynolds pushed a file across the desk. "You'll need to surrender all base-issued equipment, effective immediately." The words hung in the air like a physical weight. Surrender her uniform, the small symbol of belonging she'd carefully earned. Her fingers instinctively brushed the pocket where her father's old pilot patch was hidden, a secret connection to a legacy of aviation. "On what grounds?" she asked, a subtle tremor of challenge beneath her controlled tone. "Procedural review," Reynolds said, not meeting her eyes. "Your status as a contractor is complicated." Around her, she could feel the subtle shifts of attention. A few enlisted personnel exchanged uncomfortable glances. Some had seen her work, the way she could diagnose a simulator bug or calculate each rotor stress with uncanny precision. But nobody spoke up. Nobody ever spoke up. Her mind drifted momentarily to her father, Colonel Wyatt Carter. He'd always told her, "Never let anyone convince you that you can't aim high." The memory was both a comfort and a painful reminder of the dreams she'd been fighting to keep alive. "I understand," Rebecca finally said, her voice steady. But something was brewing beneath that calm exterior, a resolve that wouldn't be easily broken. As she walked out of the administrative office, the patch in her pocket felt heavy, a silent promise. They could strip away her uniform, but they couldn't touch her spirit. Not yet. The day was just beginning, and Rebecca Carter was far from defeated. The rumor mill at Basefield churned with a ferocity that would make hurricane winds seem gentle. By midday, the story of Rebecca Carter's uniform removal had spread like wildfire, each retelling adding new layers of speculation. Sarah Mercer, a young communications specialist, was the first to truly see beyond the whispers. She had watched Rebecca during her simulator sessions, noticing how the contractor moved with a precision that seemed almost supernatural. While others saw an outsider, Sarah saw something different, a pilot trapped in civilian clothing. "Have you seen her work?" Sarah asked her colleague, Jack Thompson, during their lunch break. "The way she calibrates those systems, it's like she knows them better than the official pilots." Jack shrugged, more interested in his sandwich. "She's just a contractor, probably exaggerating her experience." But Sarah wasn't so quick to dismiss her. She had access to communication logs, and she'd noticed something peculiar. Rebecca's technical communications were always crisp, loaded, with insider knowledge that went far beyond standard maintenance protocols. In the simulator room, Rebecca worked late into the evening. The room was her sanctuary, a place where the whispers and sidelong glances couldn't reach her. She ran complex scenarios, her fingers dancing across control panels with a muscle memory that spoke of years of hidden training. Major Reynolds wasn't content with simply removing her uniform. The rumors began to take shape, carefully crafted insinuations about Rebecca's background. One day, a report circulated suggesting she had been dismissed from a prestigious aviation program. Another implied her technical knowledge was more bluff than substance. Sarah found herself watching, collecting her own evidence. The more the base tried to push Rebecca into the shadows, the more intrigued she became. A breakthrough came during a routine system check. Rebecca identified a critical calibration error in the Apache's heads-up display that would have gone unnoticed by most. Her correction was so precise, so nuanced, that it caught the attention of a senior technician. "Where did you learn that?" he asked, genuine curiosity replacing the usual dismissive tone. Rebecca simply smiled. "Observation and practice," she responded, revealing nothing. The isolation was deliberate. They wanted to make her invisible, to push her to the margins, but invisibility can be a form of protection, a cloak under which one can observe, learn, and prepare. As night fell over Basefield, Rebecca sat in the empty simulator room, her father's patch clutched in her hand. The soft glow of computer screens illuminated her determined expression. They might have stripped her of her uniform, but they couldn't strip her of her knowledge, her skill, her purpose. Something was coming. And when it arrived, they would see her, truly see her for the first time. The weeks following Rebecca's uniform removal became a crucible of professional humiliation. Major Reynolds seemed determined to make her feel every ounce of his institutional power. Access to critical systems was gradually restricted. Her maintenance reports were buried in bureaucratic channels. During flight simulator sessions, she was often accidentally scheduled during impossible time slots or bumped by junior technicians with far less experience. Sarah Mercer became her unexpected ally. She began documenting the systematic attempts to marginalize Rebecca, collecting a quiet dossier of professional harassment. Small moments told a larger story, the way senior officers would interrupt Rebecca mid-explanation, how her technical suggestions were dismissed without consideration. One crisp morning, everything changed. A critical mission preparation meeting became the breaking point. The team was preparing for a high-risk mountain rescue operation, and the flight path calculations looked dangerously flawed. Rebecca knew the proposed route would be suicide in the unpredictable mountain wind conditions. The wind shear calculations are incorrect, she stated during the briefing, her voice calm but firm. Major Reynolds didn't even look up. "Contractor input is not required," he said dismissively. But Sarah, seated near the back, noticed something. Rebecca's hands were trembling slightly, not from fear, but from a deep, controlled anger. Her eyes burned with a knowledge that demanded to be heard. "The current approach has an 87% chance of catastrophic failure," Rebecca continued, her voice gaining strength. "The wind patterns in the mountain corridor create unpredictable turbulence that your current models aren't accounting for." The room fell silent. A few pilots exchanged uncomfortable glances. The Major stood up, his face reddening. "You are out of line, Carter. These are classified mission parameters." Rebecca stood her ground. "These are human lives," she responded, her voice cutting through the tension. What happened next was calculated professional destruction. Major Reynolds produced a folder, his movements deliberate. "Your contract is being terminated, effective immediately." The words hung in the air, like a death sentence. Sarah watched in quiet horror as Rebecca was escorted from the briefing room. But something in Rebecca's posture told a different story. This wasn't a defeat. This was preparation. That evening, in the quiet of the simulator room, Rebecca began her real work. If they wouldn't listen, she would make them listen. Her fingers flew across the control panels, running scenario after scenario, proving what she knew, preparing for a moment they would be forced to see her. Her father's pilot patch sat on the console, a silent witness to her determination. The storm was coming, and Rebecca Carter was ready. Colonel James Roth wasn't a man easily swayed by office politics. When Sarah Mercer slipped a carefully compiled dossier onto his desk, he recognized something extraordinary was brewing. The documentation was meticulous. Flight simulator logs, technical corrections Rebecca had made that were never officially acknowledged, a pattern of systematic professional marginalization. Each page told a story of expertise deliberately suppressed. "How long has this been happening?" Roth asked Sarah, his weathered fingers tracing the detailed report. "Months," she responded. "And it's getting worse. They're trying to push her out completely." What neither of them knew was that Rebecca was already 3 steps ahead. Her nights in the simulator weren't just about proving her skills. They were about creating an irrefutable record of her capabilities. She began collecting evidence, not just notes, but comprehensive data sets. Wind shear calculations that revealed critical flaws in the current mountain rescue protocols. Simulator runs that demonstrated alternative approaches that could save lives. Each scenario was documented with scientific precision. Her father's training echoed in her mind. "Intelligence is your greatest weapon," Colonel Wyatt Carter had always said. Not just knowledge, but the ability to use that knowledge strategically. Sarah became her unexpected confederate. With access to communication systems, she subtly ensured Rebecca's data wasn't buried or deleted. Small redirections, careful backups, creating a trail that couldn't be easily erased. The approaching mission became the potential inflection point. A high-risk mountain rescue in conditions that meteorologists were calling near impossible. The current flight plans looked like a death sentence for the ground troops. Rebecca knew the risks. She knew the exact wind patterns, the precise angles of approach that could make the difference between life and death, and she was determined to prove it. Major Reynolds continued his campaign of professional isolation. Her contractor status was revoked. Her security clearance was reduced to minimal access. But what he didn't understand was that Rebecca had been preparing for this moment her entire life. In the quiet of the simulator room, with only her father's patch as a witness, she ran simulation after simulation. Each run was a testament to her skill, a quiet rebellion against those who would underestimate her. The storm was brewing, both outside and within Basefield, and Rebecca Carter was ready to show them exactly who she was. The weather briefing was supposed to be routine. Instead, it became a moment of professional reckoning. Colonel Roth assembled a critical team to review the upcoming mountain rescue mission. Major Reynolds confidently presented the initial flight plans, his charts and diagrams suggesting a straightforward approach. Rebecca wasn't officially invited, but Sarah Mercer ensured her data made it into the room. As Reynolds concluded his presentation, a junior meteorologist named Eric Hansen raised a hesitant hand. "Sir, these wind calculations don't make sense." The room fell silent. Hansen projected Rebecca's meticulously documented wind shear analysis. Each slide revealed critical flaws in the current approach, dangerous turbulent zones that would put the entire rescue mission at catastrophic risk. Where did these come from? Reynolds demanded, his face turning several shades of red. Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady. "From our most detailed simulator records, specifically from the work of Rebecca Carter, the contractor you tried to push out." The presentation was devastating. Rebecca's simulations showed not just problems, but precise alternative approaches. Each slide demonstrated a level of technical expertise that went far beyond standard procedures. Colonel Roth's expression was unreadable. A career military man, he recognized genuine expertise when he saw it. And this was beyond expertise. This was mastery. "These calculations," Roth said slowly, "they suggest a completely different approach to mountain rescue operations." Reynolds attempted to interrupt, but Roth raised a hand. The silence was absolute. "I want Rebecca Carter in this room. Now!" The summons came like a thunderbolt. Rebecca, who had been waiting in a nearby administrative area with Sarah, walked in with measured steps, no uniform, no official rank, just pure, undeniable capability. "Explain these simulations," Roth commanded, and so she did. With a calm that belied the tension in the room, Rebecca walked them through each calculation. Wind patterns, rotor stress, potential rescue corridors that no one had previously considered possible. Major Reynolds looked like he might explode, but the other officers were leaning in, their professional skepticism giving way to genuine interest. "These could save lives," one senior pilot muttered. Rebecca's only response was a slight nod. Her father's patch, tucked quietly in her pocket, seemed to pulse with a silent affirmation. The exposure was complete. They could no longer ignore her. The emergency meeting was unlike anything Basefield had seen in years. Colonel Roth had assembled a review board that included senior flight commanders, meteorological experts, and mission planning specialists. Major Reynolds sat stiffly, knowing his career hung in the balance. "We have a critical mission," Roth began. "With a 22-person ground platoon trapped in mountain terrain during an incoming superstorm, our current flight plans have an unacceptable risk profile." Rebecca sat quietly, her hands folded. No triumphant smile. No visible emotion, just a calm readiness that unnerved everyone in the room. Sarah Mercer had compiled the final documentation, a damning record of how Rebecca's expertise had been systematically suppressed. Each page revealed not just professional negligence, but a calculated attempt to marginalize a skilled professional. "Ms. Carter," Roth addressed her formally, "your simulations suggest an approach that our current teams consider impossible. Walk us through it." And she did. With precision that left no room for doubt, Rebecca demonstrated how to navigate the treacherous mountain wind corridors. Her understanding wasn't just technical, it was intuitive, as if she could read the very language of atmospheric turbulence. Major Reynolds attempted one final interruption. "She's just a contractor. We can't risk a multi-million-dollar helicopter on her untested theories." Roth's response was cutting. "We can't risk 22 lives on our current approach." The confrontation reached its climax. The room was electric with tension. Years of institutional pride, bureaucratic resistance, and professional ego were about to be challenged by a single, determined woman. "I'll run a live simulator demonstration," Rebecca stated. Not a request, a declaration. What followed was nothing short of extraordinary. In the high-fidelity simulator, Rebecca navigated conditions that would have defeated their most experienced pilots. Each movement was calculated, each adjustment precise. When the simulation ended, the room was silent. Major Reynolds looked defeated. The other officers exchanged meaningful glances. Colonel Roth spoke first. "Prepare an Apache. We're sending her on the rescue mission." The confrontation was over, and Rebecca Carter had won, not through aggression, but through pure, undeniable capability. The storm raged with a fury that seemed personal. Wind screamed through mountain passes, visibility dropped to near zero, and the ground platoon's radio transmissions grew increasingly desperate. Rebecca strapped into the Apache's cockpit, her father's patch secured near the instrument panel. No official uniform, no rank insignia, just pure skill and determination. Colonel Roth's voice crackled through the radio. "Carter, conditions are at the absolute limit of human capability. Are you certain?" Her response was calm. "Affirmative." The helicopter lifted into a wall of wind and rain that would have terrified any other pilot. But Rebecca wasn't just piloting. She was conversing with the aircraft, understanding its every vibration, every potential stress point. Each movement was a calculated dance. When a sudden downdraft threatened to slam the Apache into a rocky outcropping, she compensated with microscopic adjustments that seemed to defy physics. Her hands moved not with fear, but with an almost supernatural understanding of the machine and the environment. The ground platoon's radio transmissions told a story of increasing desperation, hypothermia, dwindling supplies, exposed to a storm that seemed determined to claim their lives. Rebecca's approach was unlike anything the rescue teams had ever seen. She didn't fight the wind, she used it, finding invisible corridors, micro moments of stability, threading the needle between certain disaster and potential salvation. 2 minutes to extraction point, she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. The first group of soldiers looked up, hardly believing the massive Apache could hover in such conditions. But hover it did. Rebecca's precision was surgical. Each soldier was guided into the helicopter with a delicacy that seemed impossible given the raging storm. 2 trips, 22 lives. When she finally touched down at Basefield, the helicopter looked like it had been through a war. Mud-splattered, battered, but intact. Major Reynolds stood among the crowd, his previous confidence completely shattered. The rescued soldiers didn't just look grateful, they looked in awe. Rebecca powered down the helicopter, removed her helmet, and stepped out. No triumphant pose, no dramatic speech. Just the quiet certainty of someone who knew exactly what they were capable of doing. The aftermath of the rescue was like a quiet revolution at Basefield. Colonel Roth called a formal commendation ceremony. Rebecca stood before a gathering of officers, technicians, and the very soldiers she had rescued. Her father's patch was now visible, pinned carefully to her plain shirt, no official uniform required. 22 lives, Roth announced, his voice carrying across the assembly, saved in conditions that our most experienced pilots deemed impossible. Major Reynolds stood at the back of the room, his career hanging by a thread. The investigation into the systematic suppression of Rebecca's expertise was ongoing, and everyone knew his professional reputation was in tatters. One of the rescued soldiers stepped forward, A young sergeant named Michael Thompson, who had nearly fallen during the extraction, he presented Rebecca with a small plaque, crafted quickly but with genuine emotion. "You didn't just save our lives," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "You showed us what real courage looks like." Rebecca's response was characteristic, simple, direct. "We all have a purpose," she said. "Sometimes it just takes the right moment to reveal it." Sarah Mercer stood nearby, a quiet smile of satisfaction on her face. Her documentation, her belief in Rebecca, had been vindicated. Colonel Roth approached with an official envelope. "We're creating a new position," he explained. "Advanced rotorcraft tactics consultant. Your insights will reshape our entire training methodology." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The woman they had tried to push out was now being asked to lead. That evening, as the base settled into a reflective quiet, Rebecca stood near the flight line. The Apache she had piloted through the impossible storm gleamed under the floodlights. Her father's patch, the one constant through all her struggles, felt warm against her chest. She thought about the journey, the quiet nights in the simulator, the whispers, the attempts to silence her. And now this moment of profound validation. "Never let anyone convince you that you can't aim high," she whispered, remembering her father's words. The wind seemed to respond, a gentle breeze that carried the promise of new beginnings. Rebecca Carter had not just survived, she had transformed an entire system that had tried to break her. Her vindication was complete, not through anger or revenge, but through pure, undeniable capability. As night fell over Basefield, she knew this was more than a personal victory. It was a statement, a reminder that true expertise knows no boundaries of uniform, rank, or expectation. Sometimes the quietest voices carry the most profound truth. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and become a part of our Everyday Life Stories community. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below, dear all. We love hearing from our amazing viewers around the world.